Welcome everyone. We are here in another edition of In the House. And today we have with us an artist whose name is also associated with strong female characters and who has always been a role model for many. Without further ado, let's welcome Meeta Vasisht.
Hi.
After being an actor for so long, you have made your directorial debut with a film on one of the most renowned filmmakers of India, Moneyball.
Yes.
The film is called Moneyball and that thing called The Actor. What made you take this plunge?
So, acting for money in Siddheshwari was one of the most exciting, challenging experiences, and it was my second. The first was a short film, so this was in a way my first major film as a very young actress, just out of drama school. And I had made a lot of notes about this process. Now, after 40 years of being an actress, and a teacher, and I have a lot of students now from NSD, FTI, even Whistling Woods. And I realized over a period of time, because of the way the world is, because of social media and the cell phone, which is our sixth thumb, the ability of students to engage with the deeper self has, by virtue of new technology, lessened. So I had all these notes that I had made at the time that I was prepping for the film. And these were all notes that were there in this chunk. When people see Siddheshwari, they think it's so easy to do a role like that. But how much thought process work and working with the body, not by just sitting and thinking of it, but in a riyaz state. That in order to create that one moment in camera which comes with such ease, there is all this, there's kathak, there's drawings of miniature paintings, there's reading, there's listening, there's observing, there's sponging the director's ideas which he's giving to his cameraman and so many other people. So this entire vast world of experience that the actor, actress absorbs and then puts together to make a film that looks like, oh, it's so easy. And I felt this needs to come out. This needs to be understood that this is the actor's trajectory. This is how you have to work towards a role. A lot of our preparation doesn't come from sitting and dreaming about things in solitude. It all actually comes from engaging very deeply with life and observing other art forms and other ways of being. And that is what was there with all the directors those years, whether it was Manikal or Kumar Shani. They were interested in life. They were not making films as career things. Their need to create cinema came from questioning what was the reason of life itself. So I just felt that given that everything is up for dilution today, where we have a way of flattening out ethnicities, and where Hollywood is constantly telling us that what is realism, but we do not see that their gesture comes from their sociological environment and their way of living life. It does not come organically from our environment when we try and speak like them. And somewhere I've always wanted to make a film that spoke about the aspects of being an actor or an actress in India and taking our impulse for what we create in camera from our own spaces, our own soil, our own understanding, and our own languages and ethnicities. So I just felt I really want to make a film about the actor's craft, about Siddheshwari, and about money, about whom there are all these misconceptions that he knows nothing about acting. So there were lots of streams that kind of went into what became a 12-year commitment.
I must say, I think your film is very aspirational, and I would recommend it to every actor also to
Yeah,
see it.
Sakshi said the same thing.
So, how much of your vision changed over the over the period of time?
I don't think it changed. I just had to learn the enormous quality of patience. This whole process of 12 years of a film being made on your terms teaches you that this is how also life is meant to be. In every aspect of your life, you have to just let it be sometimes, very often. It took a year to write it, and then the shooting was quite extensive. It was in Rajasthan, Mumbai, Banaras, and Delhi. I remember friends advising me that why don't you just shoot it just outside Bombay in one place. I said no. If I'm making a film on Money Call, either I make it the way it's meant to be made or I don't make it at all. I was very clear about that there's no compromise here. A producer friend I'd asked him if he could help me with some money to shoot a particular sequence. Everything was booked. The tickets for the actress, the bus rides between cities, everything was booked. And then suddenly he just called and without any explanation said, "Sorry, but I cannot give you the money I had said I would." And he put the phone down. And I said, "Okay." So part of me said, "You know what? This is probably for the best." And I called my actress and I said, "Labdiang, I'm so sorry, but something has happened and the funding fell through and we can't shoot." She was very quiet and she's very dignified and she just said, "Okay, Meeta, it doesn't matter. It must be very hard on you." I said, "No, it's okay, but I mean, I'm sorry I asked you to keep your time and all." She said, when do you think the shoot will be?" I said, "I don't know." Because I didn't know. She says, "Okay, don't worry. Whenever you're ready, you let me know." That was it. What I'm trying to say here is the film is a strange thing. You don't decide when you'll make it. It decides when it'll get made, when the energies are right, when the right people come in. And there was a time in 2017 when I just let it be. I didn't think about the film for 6 months. I said, okay, maybe it's never going to happen. Sometimes you just let it go. You don't cling on to something and push into trying to push it into happening. And that's something that the film taught me was that it's a lot like life. You don't push life. You don't catch it by the neck and say, happen. You just have to understand that there is something else that needs to happen before this happens, and then you have to step back. Then what really saved my life was the coming into the picture of the OTT. So after a long time, I began to earn money and serious money, and then that's what enabled my next 4 schedules to happen. The other thing that I learned from Money and Kumar Shani both was the economy of shot taking. So when you see my 96-minute film, I don't know if you will be able to believe it, but the shooting dates were exactly 12 for the entire film. And in 12, it's not even 24 hours or 8-hour days. It was like 4 hours a day,
Wow.
2.5 hours in the desert sun in the morning. And that's it. You can't stand in the desert after that, especially when I'm shooting with the kids. And then if you know exactly what you're going to shoot and what you want, you've done all your homework in advance, which is something I learned as an actress watching my directors shoot. They composed in a way where they got layers in the frame, and they knew that I need just this much from the actor from here to here, and there I will go into a close up or I will cut whatever. It's not a structural thing, it's an aesthetic. So, for example, one of the shots in which I wanted to show the adolescent Money as someone who'd grown up with the vast landscapes around him of Rajasthan.
That's one of my favorite scenes from the
Yeah,
film.
and I don't know how I just sat and I looked at this landscape and I'm like saying, yeah, this is what he must have grown up with. Therefore, that sense of space and his thinking and his films. And I said, how do I capture that about this boy being able to roam the terrain? And then it was just one single shot, and that happened. And I remember recently a friend of mine who makes ad films a lot. He said, Meeta, I don't know how you thought of this shot because we would have taken 4 shots and then segued them and made one. But you've done it in a single pan. Of course, I used 4 boys of the same height. And the desert was so vast that your voice could carry
Right.
without anything, So it's a vast landscape, but because of the vastness of it and the clean, noiseless landscape, no traffic, no nothing. So I would actually just say, number ek, chalo. Then I would say, acha, number do, ab tum, because the boys knew that one has to walk this way, one has to go there. And it was just like that. And we did exactly, how many takes for that shot? 2.
Wow.
Now, the other interesting thing was someone said to me, "Oh, but you've taken Lab Diang CM, and she's a wonderful girl, but she never faced the camera. She's again from drama school, a later batch, National School of Drama. The other thing is she doesn't speak Hindi at all. She's Khasi, from the Khasi tribe, Meghalaya. I dubbed the entire thing in my voice because initially I thought we'll dub with her. Then we realized we can't have too many voices because that'll then confuse the experience of listening and following the thought process.
It was a very interesting play of having someone else depict you,
Yes,
but at the same time, it's your voice.
because she has the youthful energy that I used to have 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's not about the face. It's not about you look like me, therefore
Yeah.
you should be playing the character. No.
Right. And that's what I believe you also mentioned that Mani believed in.
Yeah,
That
he
you do
said-
not have to be
Yeah.
the character. You
You don't have to imitate.
like-
Yeah, and he said that and to be real.
Yeah.
So throughout the film, you'll find this whole idea. There's a constant talk about whether it's dance, whether it's any kind of performing art. This idea of becoming the other person. So therefore, the dance also says you can't become a tree, but you can, through your abhinay, show the flowering of the tree, its essence, its spirit, and people begin to see the tree in their imagination and to experience its flowering. Therefore, you can't say, I'm this character. You just start doing the things the character would do in the way they would do it. But for that, you need tremendous insight and discipline and observation.
And I think maybe if you start imbibing certain things that you're not, then it can also become caricaturish.
It is completely. They'll make this film on, say, Elvis Presley. Now, that person will have done all the dance moves, but you know what Elvis Presley looked like. You cannot get his charisma. You can look like him, but where's the charisma, that invisible factor which exudes? So it's better to exude an invisible charisma of your own without having to look like him, which is why I don't watch a lot of these biographical films that are made on big stars where they'll try and find someone who looks a lot like that person.
Just to kind of jump into that aspect of acting per se, which has changed. Has it changed over all these years, that the process, the internalization, or the amount of work that you had to put in?
Yes, it has changed because the technology has changed. In our time, especially in the art cinemas field, you didn't have that much film stock to fool around with. It was gold. And the camera was different. When the camera started rolling, it made a sound. It went krrrr right in your face. And that was like a live presence. So everybody knew their stuff. There was no video assist. You couldn't see what you were shooting. So the film would get processed and come through the lab 10 days after you had shot, by which time you've moved out of that location. And you can't go back to it on a small, on our films. Like Siddheshwari was made in a budget of 14 lakhs. So the technology changing has made it a little casual for people behind the camera and in front of the camera. See, even dubbing meant there's a loop of the entire dialogue. It was a big screen so that you could see your face that big. You had to be in the studio and you could not make a mistake because you'd have to do it all over again. So when digital technology came in, what did it do? It like half a sentence, you made a mistake, you slurred, you messed it up. कोई बात नहीं, दूसरे take से ले लेंगे. No, now that couldn't happen then because even one slight instead of r meant you redo the whole thing again. And then you're wasting studio time. There's a whole lot of technicians sitting behind those glass walls with you just here and that massive screen. So there was also a thrill to it because everything that you did was larger than life. You couldn't take it casually. So if I had a dub for film, even today, if I have to seriously dub anything, I do nothing from morning. I can't go 20 places and then land up at the dubbing studio and say, okay, let's dub. No. Your voice will not support you. So because technology did not make things easy for you, you respected your time, your effort, and you put it all in there. So it was very, very different. The biggest thing I remember on our sets was there was never so much noise as there is now. People did not talk so much. Even if some of the film sets, even the mainstream sets had 50 people on it, there wasn't so much yak that goes on now. Now they take a mic and they scream for silence. Silence! At that time, because everybody had to focus on what it was, there was no question of doing too many retakes. You could not go and check on that. Say, "Acha, ye theek hai, ye aise kar do, dobara karo." No, it was like here. So the directors also did not sit at a monitor. They stood next to the DOP, the cameraman. So the focus of everyone was right there. So there was an organicness to the whole thing. Like everything focused on that shot being taken. Now, because of technology, the digital thing where there's a monitor and everybody hovers around there, they sit in a tambu, the shooting team is here, the actor is there. It's very different. The whole ambience has changed. And therefore, I think the fact that actors feel that it'll get taken care of later.
What's the most important other quality that a person should have if they want to become an actor or an actress?
I still think you need to train. I'll tell you why. Even at the age of 21, I was completely convinced I have talent and everything like that. Practice, learning, being taught by other people, it takes you to different levels. So one of my recent very big successes is Delhi Crime Season 3, the character of Kalyani. अब तो हमको ऐसा घबराई दिए ऐसा बड़ा बड़ा करके ऐसा इमोशन ले आया चेहरे पे. There's a lot being written and said about it, but I tell you, if in 2000 to 2005 I did theatre with trafficked minors in a remand home, and because I was only doing pure theatre with them, they after some time started sharing all their true stories with me, including how they were trafficked, what the madams in the brothels were like, how they would talk to them, almost in a very nice, friendly manner till such time as they could convince them. And if the girls were not convinced after all that friendly banter or treatment, then they would get the hard treatment. So that is what helped me actually to access the character of Kalyani. See, you can be a great swimmer. You know you're a great swimmer. You get into the pool and you can swim 20 laps without a pause. But how do you swim in a pool which is 20 feet deep as opposed to a pool which is 7 feet deep? How do you swim if you are thrown from a height of 30 feet into a body of water? You need craft for that. And that makes you understand to what level you have the gift of swimming, the stamina. And that's what it is with the actors or the craft of anybody who wants to create. You know you have the talent, you have the gift, but how do you move from this, to the other ultimate depths of things, If I hadn't trained in craft as an actress, I don't think I would have made this film today.
Whenever you faced a hurdle, and you've been working for so many years, and they must have formed so many relations, and
Yes.
there are expectations which also come when you form those relationships. When the associations do not happen as smoothly as you expect, how do you cope with that?
It's an interesting question because I realized in hindsight and over a period of time, I had to come to terms with the fact that you have a lot of people who support you. You also have a lot of people who don't support you, even if they're very close. Not everyone is happy when you take a step that's highly individuated. And people love you when you're down and out or struggling. And also from the very beginning, when I did my very first play, even out of college, I got a sense that there was a certain level of talent I have. It brings you admirers in the audience, but it also brings you a very subtle animosity from people closest to you. Sometimes your friends, sometimes people you would never expect it from. So there are two things to this question. One is that I myself would never ask a creative person to compromise their art just to do it for me. Years ago, when I was doing my first TV show as a producer, and it was a great role, and I'd asked my dear, dear friend Om Puri to act in it, and there was a certain budget because it was for Doordarshan, and he just said, "अरे यार इतने पैसे मैं क्यों करूँ?" And I had thought, oh, but he could do it for me. We are such close friends and co-actors, and we've done 3 projects together. But then I realized, no, he's not used to working for less money. And that's when you realize that you should not mix relationship with professionalism. And when I was producing Name of a River for my then husband, and the people who really let us down at every step were his closest friends and colleagues and classmates from the FTI. And that's when I realized when you're making a film as a director, you should have people who are not people you've talked to about cinema for the last 5 years over, bottles of beer and cups of chai and discussed cinema to death. You should have people whom you can say, I'm the boss and you listen to me. At the end of the day, I'm the director, so my word counts. And initially, I don't blame a lot of people for not coming on the project because they all must have thought actress hai, कुछ self indulgence अब बनाएगी, you know. So I don't think they had expected it to be a film which was in its own way fairly academic. Somebody would say, I don't want to do this. Okay, don't. Finish. It's not like you told me, you committed to me, you had to, you should. This is my money at stake. You know, so I've even let go of money like that. And then that's also made me particular. It also made me someone who will not compromise my creative self in the name of friendship. So I tell people very clearly, we are great friends, lovely, but your project is not worthy of me. Maybe not in such a direct way, but eventually it has to become direct if people are, you know, stubborn and insistent. What I'm trying to say is that even at that point of time when you are only thinking of yourself as an actress and every lead role matters, and I think the ability to say no is very, very important. Because when you say no to what doesn't work with your spirit, you're saying yes to the deep part of you, which is the one that is going to take you very far, which is the one that will allow you to live the rest of your life on your own terms and with some strength because you don't know what comes next in life, you know. In the case of my film, I did not feel in any way that I was offering anybody a thing that wasn't going to be fabulously challenging and also artistically kind of a certain level. But I also understood when they would hedge and, you know, not commit and keep me hanging, especially when it came to the DOPs and things like that, that even though they've read the script, they are not sure of how it's going to pan out because I'm an actress. Today, after this film, it might be different. There are never problems, I've realized one thing in life. There's no problem that can't be solved. It's the person who has the layers of things that have to be dealt with. So for me now, in a creative journey, no matter how much a genius somebody is, I just have to get a whiff which might say that, hey, you know, I'm not committing, or even of a slight sense of disrespect towards me or my project, and I release them right away. I don't hold on. I don't insist that they come forward. I never try to convince people why they should be working with me. And it's strange because I never try and convince a director of why he should cast me. So in all my life, when people say you have to go out and meet people and tell them, like, even if I've done it, it's been so sort of superficial that it's like you're obliged to say, oh, I'd love to work with you one day. And I'm like cringing even when I say that. You know, I can't bear myself making those kind of things. So I don't convince people to work with me, and likewise, I don't allow anyone to convince me to work with them. Because I think everyone's artistic journey, they have their own ambitions, their own demands. And I see it as a part of, like I said, letting go. That let this go, something or somebody better will come along. I'm pretty convinced about that if something's not working out for you, it's not meant to be for you. That something much better is being called in. I think the part of maturing both as a person and as an artist is when you begin to realize that eventually this is your journey and actually you don't need anyone. Not in the sense of desperation. Those who are meant to be with you will arrive at that given time, you know. And that'll be their journey. And we deserve to walk together. But if you have to desperately convince someone to walk with you, it's better to walk alone. You're not meant to be understood by every single human being you interact with. You should be happy to interact in a space that is free of agendas, of desperate need, because that's the only place where you can grow. You know, because if there's desperate need and then that need outgrows or it never outgrows, what do you do with it?
But you also said that you've said no to a lot of things. And at the same time, you've done a lot of things of different kind. So how did you maintain that balance?
The actor's craft is basically there for you to be able to do a lot of different roles. when I first started out as an actress, my biggest excitement was that I'll get to live 100 different lifetimes in one lifetime, because each role is a new life. And that was my biggest excitement. And the idea of being able to work with many different directors and do many different films is always exciting. So I wasn't just looking for one place where I end up being celebrated, and therefore I wanted to run the whole gamut. It's like there are 3,000 people in me that can come out, characters, and I want to have done at least 2,000 before I die, something like that. So the idea of playing many vast psyches and was always exciting for me as an actress, because with each one you learn something about yourself, and it's like a new experience, and that's great. It's great fun. You carry it for a while and savor it like a nice wine or something. So that's always exciting. And also plays, theatre. Like I've been doing Laldet for 21 years now, 22. The Kashmiri mystic poet, Lalleshwari. I think finally your inner gut and your inner spirit is something that always guides you if you listen to it. And those ones I've said no to is because there were compromises involved there which would not have allowed me to be the artist. See, I have nothing against people who can do what I would personally think offensive to the self, but maybe it's not offensive to them. But I know what my limitations are. You know, like some actors have famously said that I will do whatever it takes to make me famous. But I know that's a line that I can't speak because it doesn't agree with me. In fact, it's very funny because when sometimes people say, you've not got your dues, I'm like, initially I used to think as a young actress, yeah, I should have been given this, that, and all. So there are lots of ifs, buts, and maybes that you can think of, but then what is. I realize at least that I could have been more protective of my own career, but I was too trusting of people. So I thought if I'm acting for someone, they have my career's best at their thing, but they are just human beings. If you're a young, wonderful looking actress and they have a soft spot for you, it takes you a while to understand that every director doesn't want you to become successful elsewhere. So sometimes they kill your chances. If another director is asked for you, they will not give you the contact. And those days there was no email. So I remember Meera Nair asking, calling all the way from New York and saying, you know, I believe there's this young, lovely actress you're working with. I'm looking for the lead for Mississippi Masala. And can you send me her photos? And I kept waiting to hear from her. But if I had just said, give me the phone number, I'll talk to her, I'll send her my photos. And those days it was all faxes and things. There was no email, there was no video calling. And Mississippi Masala was an international film. It was huge. And then the photographs that the production showed me, the ones that they had sent, were like so bad. And I'm like, why would someone do that? And now you realize why somebody would do that. Because you're young, you're lovely, you are someone maybe somebody wants to just keep for their cinema or have around, and the idea that you'll become international and be out there. And it's not because I was having a scene with any of them. But you know how it is. It's like you're a little puppy, you don't know your own beauty. But the person who wants to put a patta around your neck and take you home is the person only knows that. You don't know it. As a young little puppy, you're frolicking around, you're very lovely, you've got all your youth and your beauty, and you think, oh, they're so kind, so you go lick their hand and you allow them to. But that's what I mean. So I wasn't protective or sharp enough, but that's also probably what made me do my most beautiful performances. That person that I was then. That's also probably what allowed me to enter depths of characterization in a way that I think, my God, could I do it today? So you can't actually separate the person from the artist and the artist from the person. So while it makes you give memorable performances, you're also the artist who is not smart enough to protect your interests or to see through people's agendas for you. So that goes hand in hand, I think.
We can only probably understand a few things in retrospect.
Yes, exactly.
At that point, it's not in our hands.
So it doesn't matter.
Thank you, Meeta, for sharing your experiences with us. Join us next week for more such insights from the one and only Meeta Vashisht in the house.